Greetings, my friend. Welcome back to the next episode here, the Red Delta Project podcast and live feed Q&A here on the RDP YouTube channel. I'm Matt Shifley, as always, your humble host with another episode to help you be fit and live free. And today we are continuing along with our topic that we had a couple of weeks ago, where I was bringing more attention to the idea that so many of our beliefs about how fitness work are based on essentially marketing as opposed to actual science. And this is an incredibly important thing to understand because at the end of the day, we human beings fundamentally are irrational creatures. We will follow feelings over facts any day of the week. And you don't need to go very far to find evidence of this. It's why we have bias, we have prejudice, we have conspiracy theories, we have favorite sports teams. Our behaviors on a daily basis are what determine our habits, or obviously our habits, but our results that we get in life. And much of that is driven more by how we feel about things than what we actually know. And a lot of times, these feelings and beliefs about fitness are based more on marketing than anything else. And for good reason. It's because marketing just hits us in the subconscious a heck of a lot better. We have a feeling about a product or a feeling about something based on marketing messages that permeate our fitness culture and culture in general. And this is why we have very irrational ways of looking at things. And it's not always terribly bad, but it can lead us astray a little bit. And if nothing else, cause us to waste a whole lot of time and effort. Some simple cases in point are things like, oh, if I lift weights, I'm going to get big and bulky. Like, no, you'd probably need to get a room of about 5 to 10,000 people who have, until you find one who has the genetics to get big and bulky from lifting weights. Most people are just going to get slightly more muscular versions of themselves. And so that's kind of what we're talking about today is what are some of these beliefs that are in our fitness culture that have been so ever present that we just take them as just, that's the way it is, that's the way it works. When we look at how fitness works scientifically on a fundamental model, it's actually not. In today's episode, we're covering things that particularly attain to fat loss addition, but next episode will be more about building muscle addition. And so let's jump right into it. And this is one a little bit fat loss and muscle building and stuff that I address in my upcoming book, Beautiful Strength, which, by the way, my goal right now is to get this out the 4th of July weekend. So that's less than 4 weeks from now. So I'll keep you updated on that. It's basically the program on how do you use diet and exercise to look better naked, essentially. And so that's the new program coming out. But the first thing that I address is this myth here, which is that there is a direct aesthetic demand that you can achieve from particularly exercise. That if you exercise a certain way, your body is going to reliably change to look into a certain shape. And the example I love to call up on this one is there's that sign that sometimes goes out there by people on social media and stuff where there's two images, one of a sprinter who's big and jacked and ripped, and then there's a marathon runner next to an image of a marathoner, and he's looking all skinny and weak and frail and stuff. And it's like, this is, what happens if you sprint versus marathons. And this is permeating this idea that there is an aesthetic demand, that if you work out like a sprinter, you look like the sprinter dude. And if you work out like the marathoner, you end up looking like the marathoner dude. And it's just simply not how fitness works. There is no such thing as a reliable and direct aesthetic demand. If you work out like that sprinter, you're largely gonna look the way you do now and just be a little bit better at sprinting. If you go and start running marathons, you're going to largely look the way you do now and just be better at marathons. Will there be some degree of change aesthetically? Yes. Will it really matter very much? Probably not. And this is because we want this idea. We love this idea out there because, again, it sells. It doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter if it's very valid or practically applicable. It just is something we want it to be true. Whatever we want to be true permeates. It filters through and becomes more popular. So we love this idea that if I do the right exercise, I'm going to get big and jacked and ripped and swole, and everybody's going to love me. And please, I'm desperate for affection, kind of thing. And if we train the wrong way, then our body's going to look like crap. When the reality is that, like everything else in fitness, it's not so much that it does or doesn't do anything, but rather the degree of influence that something may have over a particular result. In this case, your aesthetic shape and your development. Now we can take a look at that same image and pick up at least 5 other massive influences that are far more responsible for the discrepancy between the two, not least of which is just simple genetics. The two individuals in that image, you look at them, it's like they are very different builds, very different individuals, very different genetics. I think even the sprinter is like, he's got some darker skin, so obviously very different genetically. It's not like we're talking about people in the same family here. So we're talking about massive genetic difference. We're also talking about massive age difference. The sprinter looks like he's in his 20s in college. The marathoner looks like he's in his late 60s. So there's that. Not to mention, too, that a big part of regular track and field athletes' protocol is strength training. Whereas in my world, like I come from a world of endurance athletes, and the vast majority of endurance athletes do little to no strength training. And if they do, they're certainly not doing it in a way to try to build muscle. So there's a very good chance, like, look at the guy who's really jacked. Yeah, why? Because he lifts, and the marathoner doesn't even lift. So there's a lot of differences right out of the gate that are probably much more responsible for the influence on the physique versus this guy sprints versus this guy is a marathoner. And it's important to recognize this because when we put our attention and our belief into, if I train this way, I'm going to look like this person, then we're thinking that that training is the entire story, and we're ignoring most of the other influences that are also extremely important. And two, it brings about not so much unrealistic expectations, but it makes you feel like I should be changing more than it really is. When the reality is, aesthetic development in the body is more often than not a very slow process, even under the best of circumstances. And it's often a lot harder than it is. So when we think that there's an aesthetic demand out there, that we can reliably make our body look a certain way if we just find the right exercise or the right workout program and stuff, then we're effectively buying into marketing messages rather than actual reality and science. But when we recognize instead that you can have aesthetic augmentation of your body, absolutely, you certainly can change how you look and become more attractive through diet and exercise habits. It just doesn't work the way that the marketing messages will tell you it works. Because yes, your workout program does matter. Does it matter enough to make all the difference in the world? Not really. As long as your workout program gets you in a general ballpark, particularly for building muscle, then that's about as good as you're going to get. I'm not going to tell somebody, oh yeah, if you engage in like sprinting, you're going to get jacked and ripped and shredded. I'm not going to say that about any exercise or any workout program, because there's always a lot of influences beyond the exercise and the workout program that are also important. And we need to focus also on those. And the more we think, oh, it's just about rep range or whether or not I'm sprinting or if my workout is under 45 minutes or whatever, then we're getting very narrow influential impact over the results we want. We're limiting ourselves, which makes us work a lot harder for a fraction of the results. So that's the big myth number one. I'm going to reiterate that in the next episode too, is that there is such a thing as a direct aesthetic demand, that you can tell your body to look a certain way specifically with a type of workout program. And it's just not, because fundamentally exercise is about making you perform better, function better. Every exercise, every workout, everything you do does the same thing. It tells your body, I need you to be able to do this thing, not look a certain way, not to get bigger or jacked or ripped or shredded or lose weight or anything like that. I'm saying, I need you to be able to do this thing. And your body will always adapt very reliably and very directly. And you will always, whenever you tackle any new physical activity, you will always have adaptation to be able to more effectively and efficiently perform that activity. Whether or not it makes you look any different or helps you lose body fat, that's a different story. Maybe, yes, no, maybe so. Depends on a whole bunch of other influences. But we've got to uncouple ourselves from this belief that getting the body I want just boils down to finding the right exercise or the right training program, because that's just not how it works. All right. Belief number two, fitness beliefs we love to believe is that exercise X burns fat. If you do this exercise, you burn fat. If you do that workout, you burn fat, kind of thing. Maybe it's a little more nuanced like that. Like, oh, if you do exercise X, you burn belly fat or something. Or burns fat in women or burns fat in men, kind of thing. And it's all, remember, a lot of marketing messages are about the divide and conquer idea. The more specific you get about things, the more people are likely to believe what you're selling them, even though there's nothing really to it. That's why, like, I don't have books on how to do calisthenics for people over 40. How to, calisthenics training for women, calisthenics training for teens, calisthenics training for people who live in the Northern Hemisphere named Bob, who like to watch football on Sundays, but they don't like to watch college football, right? This is how marketing works, is the more you can make it seem specific for a demographic, the more the demographic believes it's curtailed for them. When the reality is, you don't need anything special because you're over 40. You don't need anything special because you're a woman or you live in the Northern Hemisphere or whatever kind of thing. That's because smart training is based on capability, not gender or age or demographics of whatever kind. Do those things matter? Sure, but they matter so far as how well you can function. And that's why I tell people all the time, it's like, when you come into my gym, it's not my gym, the gym I work at. When you come in for a workout with me, I don't give a damn how old you are. I don't care if you've been training for 30 years. I don't care if you're hungover from the night before. I care about what can you do? What can you do? If you have trouble squatting deep because you're tight and you're stiff and your glutes are more asleep than Sleeping Beauty, I'm going to train you likewise. I don't care if you're 12 or 30 or 78. It doesn't matter to me. I train you according to your ability. And that's the smart way that you train people, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way that you work out. I don't care if you're over 40. I'm not going to give you a different workout program because you're over 40. It's not like, oh, you're 20, you train this way. Oh, you're 40, you train this way. No, because there's too many variables. It's a matter of how do you train according to what your abilities are, both in the acute and the long term. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. But anyway, going back to the idea of exercise X is effective for burning fat. The reason why this is a myth is because there is no such thing as fat burning or fat loss exercise. Say it again. There is no such thing as an exercise that makes you burn or lose body fat. I know some of you are like, what? That's crazy. I did this exercise and I lost 10 pounds. Yeah, I did the same thing in college. I got into bike racing. I lost fat like crazy. Was it because I got into bike racing? No, it's because I was in a caloric deficit. The exercise that you do can be an influence to helping you do that. It can increase your caloric expenditure, therefore influencing your calorie balance. And that's why you lose and manage body fat. It's not because you do a particular kind of exercise. And you hear this a lot in the marketing messages. This exercise will make you burn fat. Yeah, no kidding. That's like saying, live here and you'll be able to breathe oxygen. Or, drink this and you'll be hydrated. Yeah, because it has water. All things that have water will give you hydration. Everything you do burns fat and calories to at least some degree. Me snapping my fingers, that just burned not much, but some semblance of calories. And our body's default energy substrate most of the time is fat that we're burning. You don't need to do anything special. You don't need a special program. You don't need heart rate variability. You don't need to work in a particular zone. You don't need to work out for a certain amount of time before you burn fat. That was another myth that I fell for. It's like, oh, you're burning carbs before, for 20 minutes and then you burn fat. No, all of this stuff is, again, it's kind of based on some nuanced stuff that people usually get wrong who don't really know what they're talking about. So what does this mean? It means do whatever the heck you want. Granted, yes, things that you can do for longer periods of time and work more muscle groups are going to burn more total amounts of fat and calories. That's AKA cardio in many cases. I just rode my bicycle up Deer Creek Canyon the other day. So that was me riding uphill up a mountain pass for an hour and 45 minutes. So imagine that, go into a spin class or something, an indoor cycling class or on your Peloton and say, we're going to go uphill the entire time for nearly 2 hours. That's what I did. That burned a lot more calories and fat than any sort of high intensity 15-minute workout, just because of time. The biggest influence by far in how much fat and calories you burn is just how much you do it, how long you spend doing it. Working out for 3 hours will burn more fat and calories than working out for 1 hour. Working out 5 days a week will burn more fat and calories than working out twice a week. So if you have an interest in like, well, how do I know how to burn more? Simple. You do more. You just do more, whatever you want. You don't need anything special. You don't need anything specific, which gives you freedom to do whatever you want. If you don't like to run, you don't need to run. If you'd rather take kickboxing classes, go to kickboxing classes. If you want to just burn more, you can just go out for walks. I know people are like, well, the science says that walking doesn't burn all that much, blah, blah. Yeah, but anecdotally, by far, the people I've known who have lost the most amount of body fat and have kept it off, walking's always a big part. Why? Because you can do a lot of it. You can do it every day, and you can do it for hours on end with a bit of conditioning. So does that mean that walking is the ultimate fat loss exercise? No, it's just an easier way to be active for long periods of time, much more frequently. And that's what we're talking about here. Is it's not about direct cause and effect. It's what's going to have the biggest influence on the process that's going to matter for your results. In this case, the process is calorie exchange process, calories in and calories out. Whatever is the easiest way for you to have a big influence on that process is going to be, quote, most effective for you. And that's why different things work for different people. Couple folks coming on in. Zaid, my friend, saying, Matt, is it okay to eat less protein but build muscle slowly? How do you maximize fat loss while keeping calories low without increasing protein? Well, funny enough, with your thing is a big common strategy is increase the protein. So you want to look at your, not so much just calorie balance, calorie deficit, but calorie usage, calorie application, if you will. And remember, we store body fat when we're consuming calories that we don't necessarily have much use for. And that's why things like fat and carbs and stuff often get the demonic idea, which we'll address a little bit later, because it's easy to consume a lot more calories when it's from a fat source, and it's easier to consume a lot more calories from carbohydrate sources. And because most of us aren't very active, it's also fairly easy to overconsume these things. Protein, though, is like the Swiss Army knife of the nutrient world. If you eat protein, chances are you can probably use it for something, because you use it for a million things. People often equate protein with building muscle. It's like you do it to everything. And remember, your body is always building. You're always breaking down and you're always building up at the same time, again, with a cyclical process. So I would say, why are you looking at less protein? I would say protein is your friend. I don't understand, unless you've got a medical thing going on or something, Zaid. I would say up the protein there, and build muscles slowly, as you said. Like, why? Like, if you can do it faster, do it faster. Go for it. Put the pedal to the metal, my friend, because building muscle in general, for most part, it is a very slow process, very, very slow. Remember that you can change your body weight in a matter of hours through water manipulation, in a matter of days or even weeks through fat, but muscle, outside of beginning gains and stuff like that, is the building muscle so slow. It's like measure it by the annual returns kind of things. Famous calisthenics gymnastics coach Summers, said, I don't bother weighing or measuring people's muscle gain any more than once a year, because the rate of growth is so slow that it's just not going to show up if you do it any more frequently than that in most cases. So here's a question here following up. This is good. Is the amount of calories walking in normal temperature different than walking in a warmer temperature? Possibly, but it probably doesn't matter a whole lot. And if it does, it usually is going to require such extremes that it's just not practical anyway. So a lot of times, folks, and this is where influences come into play, you will hear about things in the literature that are technically true when it comes to an influence on the process that governs your results, the process of calorie balance in this instance. But just because it's true doesn't necessarily mean it's actually relevant. So let me give you an example from this, right? So you burn more calories consuming, digesting, breaking down, and utilizing protein sources than fat and carbohydrate sources from food. They call this a thermic effect of food. So if you eat a steak, that's going to require you to burn more energy to break down, digest, and use that steak for energy than if you were eating a donut, for example. A lot of people really stake their dietary habits on this. A lot of people will say, okay, this is why you should eat a steak, as if you really needed a good reason, right? It's like, I've got a million reasons why I should eat the steak over the donut if I want to be stronger and healthier and build muscle. The thermic effect of food may technically be true, but the question we always want to ask ourselves is, it doesn't matter if it's true, because what is relevant is how much influence does it have on that process? Case in point with like temperature kind of thing. And by and large, with a lot of this stuff in marketing, marketing bloats and extrapolates influences. Most stuff out there really doesn't matter very much. Does walking in different temperatures matter? Probably. Or sometimes in the literature, you'll hear this term, statistically significant. And statistically significant is kind of like scientific talk for saying, yeah, technically it's a difference, but it's not relevant to really worry about. Like, yeah, technically it's different, but forget about it. It doesn't really matter in practical application. So when we look at the question of not whether or not is this effective or not, or is this true or not, instead asking how much influence does this thing have, then we can get a real accurate bead on whether or not that thing is really relevant and something you should put your attention to. And again, most stuff out there really doesn't have that much influence to really worry about it. And if it does have any influence, you probably need to be doing it anyway. Like, I don't need to know that I'm going to burn 10 calories consuming and digesting a steak. I'm just talking arbitrarily here. Let's say 30 calories, okay? 30 calories to consume and digest a steak versus 3 calories digesting a donut. Does it really matter? Not really. Do I need to know that? No, because I was going to have the steak anyway, right? So it doesn't really matter that much when we look at these sorts of things, even if they are true, even if they are statistically significant and stuff. And that's why marketing blows things out of context. It takes something that's small, relatively trivial, but factually true, and you get the influencers and you get the coaches and you get the books and the programs and stuff saying, you know, this tiny little thing that barely matters at all? Well, we're going to pretend that it's the thing holding all the keys to your success. We're going to make believe, or even tell ourselves, that it matters a whole heck of a lot. And it probably doesn't. Another example is EPOC, excessive post-exercise oxygen consumption. The idea that if you work out, the second you stop working out, your body is still consuming and utilizing fat and calories at an increased rate after your workout. It's like if you had an object on the floor and you pushed it real hard, right? The second you stop pushing, it keeps going due to inertia. Well, you have kind of like a metabolic inertia about such things. You continue burning an increase in your expenditure after you work out. A lot of times people are like, oh, do it this way, train this way, because then you're going to be burning fat and calories for like days afterwards and all this sort of thing. But the fact of the matter is it depends on, again, a whole lot of other nuance, like your conditioning level, how long you work out, how hard you work out. Temperature probably comes into play there again. I know I've certainly had times when I've gone out for a bike ride or worked out outside in the heat, and I am just smoked the rest of the day because I'm practically sunstroked. And then I've got other days where it's nice and cool and overcast, maybe a little rainy. And I come home, I'm like, a little tired, but I'm good, kind of thing. So there's a lot of nuance to these sorts of things that change the amount of influence it has. But most of the time that influence is so small, it doesn't really matter very much. So that's why you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket, because every time you focus your attention on a very small, probably trivial influence, you're basically putting a lot of effort towards a very little result, which is never a good formula for like motivation. Just posted that video that I did the other day on how to cultivate motivation and why it is absolutely essential for your success. And anytime you've got high effort to low returns, that's like kryptonite to your motivation, therefore your habits, therefore your results and your potential. So you want to have things that are high influence, relatively low effort. And there are not a whole lot of those, but they are out there. And usually that's not going to be the stuff that's heavily marketed out there because it's not sexy. It's not very hype filled. Things like get a good night's sleep, get some protein at each meal, make sure you stay hydrated, these sorts of ideas. No one's going to write books on that. No one's going to be getting 1 million views on TikTok on a video on that sort of thing. But that's the stuff that's going to have the bigger influence and therefore more effect on you. So yeah, there is no such thing as fat loss exercise because everything burns fat and calories. Myth number 3, instead of saying exercise X makes you burn fat and get leaner, same thing with diet. Diets make you leaner. Diets make you burn fat. Diets make you lose fat and stuff. Is it true to say, oh, I went on this diet and I lost body fat? Yeah, it can happen. Same here. When I was very low fat when I was in college, very strict low fat diet, worked like a charm. Single digit body fat year round. So I could theoretically say, yeah, low fat diet keeps the fat off. No, low fat diet was not the reason why I got leaner. It's because I was in a calorie deficit again. But ultimately, if exercise is about function and being able to produce a functional ability, well, diet is the same way. When you start a diet of any kind, for any label or brand that you have, then you may think, I'm doing this to lose weight, but your body doesn't care. Your body and Mother Nature did not build the body up to lose weight because you're on a diet. Instead, diets have very much a similar purpose to exercise, functional ability. When you go on a diet, let's say like low carb or something, you're not telling your body to lose body fat. You're not telling your body to be leaner. You may be leaner, get leaner. You might, but do you really want to bank on might? But what's actually happening is you are training your body, you're conditioning your body. Diets condition the body just like exercise does. You're ultimately training and conditioning your body to not lose body fat. And here's why, because all adaptation from the body in response to diet and exercise is for the sake of regaining and maintaining a sense of balance, of homeostasis. And for good reason, because if you go outside of that balance for too long, to too much of a degree, very bad things happen. You get sick, you get hurt, you get dead. It's a very, very bad situation to be chronically out of homeostasis. You just don't survive the process. So that's why perpetual weight loss eventually will kill you. It's called starving to death. So that's why the second you start doing some sort of dietary intervention, your body's like, oh, we don't have carbs in our environment anymore. Oh, we don't have enough food resources in our environment. Okay, we're going to make all these adaptations happen. We're going to have adaptations to your gut bacteria. We're going to have adaptations to your appetite, to a whole bunch of factors that give you sensory perception about food. People who've been on diets who've really restricted themselves a lot know that suddenly it's like, I'm craving this thing that I didn't before kind of idea, right? So everything about how our body uses and perceives and interacts with food changes. And all of this is purely to get you somehow back into a homeostatic caloric balance under the new dietary considerations. Now, weight or fat loss can be part of that. Losing muscle can be part of that process. Absolutely. And that's why we're thinking, okay, that's why I'm doing that. Well, are you really want to do these things for a side effect, or do you want to actually go after a direct result? But the more you go after it with just a dietary perspective, the less you're actually going directly after the process itself, which means you are limiting your potential to influence that calorie balance because you're only going after a narrow range of dietary influences, in this case, like carbs. You're also extremely vulnerable to corporate marketing messages because they're like, oh, wow, people were starting low carb, and so nobody's eating bread and pasta, cakes, and cookies anymore. Marketing opportunity. We're going to make low carb cake, cookies, pasta, and bread now. And so now you think, okay, I can eat all the bread, cake, cookies, and pasta that I want. I'm not going to get fat because it's supposedly carbs that make you fat. And now you're eating twice as much as before. And it's like, what the heck? This is, this is what I fell for with the low fat thing. Everybody was like, okay, I'm doing low fat. And they stopped eating a bunch of junk food that had a bunch of fat in it. And companies were like, we're going to make a ton of low fat junk food. And man, I ate that stuff like crazy. I ate it so much. Thankfully, I didn't get fat because I wasn't eating that much of it. And I was also, again, very active. But that's just the point is they just find a dietary loophole to get us to eat more and charge us more for the privilege too. So diets don't make you lose body fat. They're all about helping you regain homeostasis under the new diet. So when you are exercising, know that Mother Nature only cares about whether or not you can do the exercise. And when you're under the diet, Mother Nature only cares about can you survive under the diet. Mother Nature doesn't care how you look in a bathing suit. It doesn't care if you're getting bigger or jacked or losing body fat. So when people come to me and they're like, I was on this diet for a while and I was losing body fat and getting a little leaner for like 6 weeks or a few months, and then it stopped losing body fat. How come it stopped working? And the answer is it did work. It worked extremely well. That's entirely what's supposed to happen. Because if it doesn't, you eventually end up dead. So Mother Nature came in and saved you from yourself. It's like, but I want to keep losing body fat. I'm like, I know you do, but Mother Nature doesn't know that, nor does she care. It's all about trying to get you to regain your balance. And that's what happens. And that's when you stop losing body fat. So that's why all diets ultimately are fat loss prevention tactics, not actual going after it. Texas, good point. Best exercise to burn fat is intensive mental work. The brain uses a ton of calories, folks. Yes, most energy hungry organ. Yes, can expend your knowledge and your portfolio and burn fat in the process. Technically, not really, because your brain only runs off glucose. Your brain can't run off of fat substrates, but it's irrelevant, because that's another thing that's in our marketing messages out there. Burn fat, burn fat, burn. 2 words that sound promising but are meaningless. Because if you want to get leaner, burn anything. I don't care if I'm burning carbs. I don't care if I'm burning fat. In fact, there's some degree of research and scientific support out there that if you want to get leaner, focus on burning carbs. Marty Gallagher and Dr. What's his face? Shoot, I'm blanking on the name. That book, Strong Medicine, came out. Gosh, boy, that was a while ago. Now that I think about it, that's like almost 20 years ago. Strong Medicine. But the whole premise of the book is burn carbs. If you want to get leaner, burn carbs. Focus on burning carbs, which, yes, no, maybe so. We could have a debate about that. But the bottom line is don't care so much about what you're burning. It's like, well, if you do this, you're burning fat. Don't care. If you burn this, you're burning carbs. Don't care. Like, as long as I'm burning one or the other, it's going to all will come out in the wash. Well, I don't want to burn protein either. It's like, well, then you better be lifting. The stimulus of strength training is what tells your muscle to hang around. So make sure you're losing, or you're still hitting the weights if you want to be losing body fat. But yeah, I don't care if I'm burning fat. I don't care if that doesn't mean you're going to get leaner. So a lot of the marketing out there is saying, do this and you'll burn fat. Even if it's true, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, because a lot of times these strategies are like, well, now I'm burning mostly fat. I'm like, yeah, you're also storing mostly fat. The body is always smarter than any diet we're ever on. It's always going to shortchange us to prevent fat loss, no matter what we do. And you'll hear this too in the marketing rhetoric of don't do this exercise, don't do that diet, don't do this, because then your body's going to compensate in this other way and prevent you from, yeah, that's always going to happen. It's always, no matter what you do, your body is going to find a way to prevent fat loss at some point. It's going to. You can't stop that. There's no way you can prevent that. So that's why my ideas on calorie hacking, which I wrote about in my book, Calorie Hacking, but also in my upcoming Beautiful Strength, are so relevant, because it's all about recognizing, well, if you're going to stop losing body fat, you might as well do it on purpose and use the process of Mother Nature in your favor rather than trying to fight against it and create a lot of ugly stress in the process. But don't get too hung up on, what you're burning, what substrates you're burning. It's like doesn't matter. If I'm burning more fat, great. If I'm burning more carbs, great. It's all good for health. It's all good for weight. It's all good for body fat levels. It's all good, for these approaches. So don't worry about it. Sinitar, it's always good to see you, my friend, saying, if you can build 10 pounds of muscle a year, that's a great rate. That's a real fast rate. That's awesome. It averages about 12 grams per muscle per day. Wow, I'm impressed you did the math on that. What do I need so much, why do I need so much protein over my daily minimum requirements to build 12 grams of muscle? Well, the answer to that is you probably don't, Again, we could argue this is marketing rhetoric. It's like, whoa, yeah, you need so much protein in order to build muscle, and you can't possibly get it with food, which is why you've got a supplement. And it just so happens I sell supplements. Gee, imagine that kind of thing. Exactly, kind of thing. So protein demand require the protein's no different than any other nutrient in the human body. It's no different than fat, carbs, vitamins, minerals, and water. You have a demand for it. Your body has a need for a certain amount of it, and you're fine as long as you're feeding enough to meet that demand. But that demand boils down to 1,000,001 different influences above and beyond, I'm just trying to build muscle, or I'm working out in a gym. All right, you've got a lot of things that require protein. So that's why we want to make sure we're getting enough protein for sure. As we studied in nutrition classes, if you don't get enough protein, bad things can happen. Most of us are not in that world. Most of us don't have the threat of malnutrition, especially when it comes to protein intake. So yeah, we could certainly make the argument that no, you don't need protein supplements. You don't need a large degree of protein. And there's nothing wrong with it either. You want to get a protein smoothie, go for it. Great. I'm not going to tell you need to do that to build muscle, though. But this is why it's much more important to have a general holistic approach and view to diet first and foremost. The number of times I've known guys who are like, I'm going to get jacked, I'm gulping down protein shakes, but I look at their actual diet and it's still atrocious. Like, dude, a bag of Doritos and a Coke is not lunch. It's like, yeah, I know, that's all I got, time for today and stuff. It's like your meals are not satisfying. So trying to basically fill in the gaps with supplements from a really piss poor diet is a very costly and not efficient and effective way to go. So that's why, I'm always telling people, get your 3 Ps every meal, and you are eating meals. It's not snacks. You're sitting down, you got a meal, plant, protein, portion, your 3 Ps. Get your 3 Ps every single meal. You do that, chances are real good you're going to be good. If you're sitting down, well, how much? Well, if you sit down and you're like, that there is a real good sized protein source. It could be plants, it could be animal products, I don't care. But you should look at your meal and be like, yep, there is a good amount of protein source here. There's a good plant source right here. Okay, if you do that each meal, you're probably going to be fine. You can add in stuff, absolutely, but probably not necessary. So yeah, if, Sinitar is saying 12 grams per day, that's not much. 12 grams of protein. Then we can go into bioavailability and are you using the protein and how much protein is getting lost to digestive and quality of protein and complete protein. So it's really hard to really know if something's happening just by the numbers alone. But yeah, you're right. 10 pounds of muscle a year is pretty darn good. And that's a small, tiny little increase per day. So do you need to be eating a huge amount to do that? Well, we could certainly make the argument that no, probably not. Zaid following up saying, Matt, someone I knew had started a diet because of someone's comment on their Insta video, quote, looking fat. Is that a strong enough motivation, or as a coach, would you expect the person to give up soon? This is the thing, folks. And again, as I said at the beginning of this episode, we are not rational creatures. The most irrational belief we hold as human beings is that we are rational. that we do things for rational purpose. We are very emotional, we're belief driven, and we are irrational in this way. And this is the thing we've got to be really careful about, because, and we learned about this in our disordered eating classes in college when I was at UVM, is just how much we can hair trigger a lifetime of disordered eating, where just a simple comment like that, just one little comment, can literally send someone down the path of a lifetime of bulimia, anorexia. I remember when I was a kid, I was watching a cartoon one time, and it was about a mongoose. I think the name of the cartoon was like Ricky Tikki Tavi or something like that. So it was this mongoose that was really good about killing snakes, right? I think. I mean, it was literally so long ago. It's like one of my earliest memories. And I remember in the episode, there was this scene where he was eating a banana, and he put down the banana, is like half finished, and the narrator was like, he was tempted to eat the whole banana, but he knew that a fat mongoose is a slow mongoose, and a slow mongoose is a dead mongoose. And just that, me watching that, was one of the sparks that taught me, if I don't want to be in danger, and I want to, because I was just getting into martial arts, I was kind of really insecure. If I don't want to be in danger and I want to protect myself, I need to deprive myself. I need to purposely eat less than I want to. And I need to be lean, I need to be skinny so I can be fast. Now, was there any rationality to that? No. And yet, literally just that, and I'm not saying that alone did it, but that put me down the rabbit hole of the belief system of, I need to deprive myself, I need to eat as little as possible, I need to basically binge and purge through exercise, I need to be skinny, I need to have as low body fat as possible in order to protect myself. From a cartoon, nonetheless, right? And so, yeah, someone making a single, thank God I grew up before social media, geez. Someone just saying, hey, you look fat in a video, yeah, that can do it. That alone can make all the difference. And the number of people I know who've suffered eating disorders and bulimia and body image issues. And it's like, where did this start? Well, my uncle one time said, hey, Pudgy, you looking good there. It's a simple, innocent and I'm not saying we got to police our talk and everything like crazy like that, but literally that's all it can take. A single image that you see in a selfie, or a way that you look in a single piece of clothing. Yeah, that's all it takes. Now, granted, we could certainly argue that it's always there and it's just a tipping point, but yeah, it can certainly be the first thing that is a cascade of things. And if they're taking that kind of action from that comment, yeah, I think it certainly could be happening. Adi saying, hey, man, Matt, when hungry, I eat a meal. Good, real whole food, not taking any supplements. I feel great, because who knows what is in it. I don't trust these people. Just now I could not see the stream and could not comment, but it was Tube not letting me because of the ad block. Oh, sorry about that. We're all facing the same circumstances. Crap. Even the meat you get, who knows what scary and crap was pumped into them. So here's another thing that we have, right? So this is the next myth that we have. Good and bad foods. This is a very prevalent marketing meme in our fitness culture. These are the good foods. These are the bad foods. Don't eat the bad foods. That's how you stay healthy. Eat the good foods. That's how you stay healthy. Stay away from the bad foods. That's how you stay lean. Eat the good foods. That's how you stay lean. It's not how it works, folks. It's not how, if it was, then it would work. Full stop. Now, my man Addy here might be like, what are you talking about? I eat the good foods. I stay away from the bad foods. I look great. I feel great, and I perform great. Yeah, I know. And that's how these ideas and myths keep perpetuating. I did the same thing myself back in the day. But the fact of the matter is, a healthy diet does not come from eating certain foods. I know that sounds crazy. I'm probably getting roasted in the comments section on the video playback right now. But seriously, it's not about the food. It's not about what you're eating. Yes, that is an important variable. Yes, but it's just one. It's just one. I'm never going to tell you if you eat the right food, you will be healthy, lean, and fit. I'm never, because it doesn't work that way. That's not how nutrition works. That's not how it works, because it gives us a false sense of control. It gives us a false sense, because first and foremost, good luck getting clear on what the good food and the bad food categories are. Yeah, if you want to get a sense of this in action, check out the latest episode of Maintenance Phase, the podcast where they're talking about processed foods. And like for an hour, they're like, no one agrees what the hell a processed food is or what categories they are. And the more we try to define it, the more it doesn't make sense. Like, okay, under this category, honey is a processed food, yet, Lay's potato chips are not processed and they're fine to eat. So you shouldn't have honey in your coffee, but you can eat all the chips you want, kind of thing. And this is what happens when we go good food, bad food kind of thing, is that, again, we totally throw off control, our hands off the wheel of what's actually healthy. And we're like, corporate America, tell me what I should eat. Diet culture of America or whatever, tell me what I should eat. I don't want to have to make choices for myself. I don't want to have discipline and assess what is right for me. No, you have to tell me, please save me from myself. I need a diet book to tell me. I need celebrities to tell me what I should be eating. I need Dr. Oz or whatever to tell me what is safe and unsafe, because I don't want to have to think for myself. That's where this stuff ultimately leads and where I was before. And that's because healthy eating is a verb, my friends. It's not a noun. Healthy eating is a verb. It means eating things in a healthy way. The moment we start thinking it's about an ingredient, it's about sugar, it's about high fructose corn syrup, it's about fat, it's about calories, it's about one single variable, we lose much of our control, independence, discipline, and the ability to eat for ourselves, because we don't care about results anymore. We don't care about health. We don't care about being lean. We're putting the diet in control. When I was on the low fat kick back in school, I thought I did, but looking back, I really didn't. I didn't care about being lean. I didn't care about eating healthy. Otherwise, I would have taken a step back and be like, gee, Matt, you always feel like crap half the time. You're having trouble recovering. Maybe, you ate that Philly cheesesteak one time when you, quote, let yourself go, and you felt amazing afterwards. Doesn't that tell you something? Nope. I'm going to go to my low fat, cling to my low fat beliefs kind of thing. Healthy eating is a verb. It's eating in a healthy way. And when we recognize that, we eat for the purpose of benefit, not avoidance of detriment. So I'm going to eat a cheeseburger at Five Guys. You know what's in that? Don't know, don't care, doesn't matter. Well, is it made with, seed oils or beef tallow or what? I don't know. I don't care. It seriously doesn't matter very much. It really doesn't. Because what does matter is, are you eating cheeseburgers in a healthy way? That's what matters. And as long as we're going good food, bad food, this food makes you fat, this food makes you lean, this fat food makes you healthy, this food makes you unhealthy. As long as we're clinging to that belief, which, yes, that is based on marketing, not science, then we lose that control and we lose the ability to make decisions on what is actually healthy for you, to do things with true discipline. I am a lot healthier eating most everything in the world than anyone following a diet, because I actually practice healthy eating. I'm eating for my benefit. I don't need to worry about weight gain. I don't need to worry about what's in the cheeseburger, what's in the hot dog and stuff, because I eat it in a healthy way. It's irrelevant. Now, granted, yeah, I'm eating mostly, wholesome foods. When you eat for benefits, you naturally gravitate towards what are the things that are going to bring me the most good? What are the things that are going to bring me the most nutritious value? Absolutely. But it also means I'm going to enjoy beer and chocolate and junk food, because I get benefit from that too. We could argue certainly maybe not as much nutrition benefit, but it doesn't matter. It's not about all nutrition. If nutrition was all, then we would just make nutritious glop like they had in the Matrix and just force feed people that. No need for restaurants, no need for, Christmas cookies, no need for high-end wine sommeliers and stuff. We just all eat glop for the rest of our lives and be perfectly happy. And of course, there'd be rebellion in the streets over that, because food is much more about physical nutrition. And as long as we think it is, or we try to force it, the more unhealthy our diets are going to become. And the more we're going to leave control over our calorie balance and the ability to manage body fat to just whatever marketing messages they're shoving down our throats. Because that's not about health. It's not about weight management. It's about them trying to tell us what we should eat. And I don't know about you, but I got enough of that when I was a kid with my parents telling me to eat my broccoli. I'm an adult. I want to eat like an adult. And when you eat like an adult, it means you're not eating according to instructions from someone else. You're observing what makes you feel the best, what brings you the most value, what is the healthiest and most rewarding dietary habits for you. And if that's pizza every Friday night with your friends, then that's healthiest. That's going to be the best way to go about it. If you recognize that, oh, if I eat the whole banana, then go for it. It's about healthy eating, which is a verb, my friends. And we can have a correlation between certain foods and stuff, but it's not direct cause and effect. And the marketing messages will try to convince you otherwise for the sake of selling you food or a diet or a program or supplements or whatever. And that's why we want to uncouple from the good food, bad food. It's like, I don't avoid donuts because I know how to eat donuts in a healthy way. Not a big donut fan myself, though. Every once in a while, though, I'll go on a kick of those little chocolate frosted donuts you can get at the gas station. And I'll have those for like a week, a couple of days. And then I'm like, okay, I'm good. And I don't eat them anymore. And that's the healthy way to do it. You have your treats. You don't overindulge. You're satisfied. And you're like, okay, good. Moving on. Let's see. I think I covered a lot of these on this long. Oh, last thing here. Success is going to come from more extreme results. The more extreme, because extreme is marketing. Okay. If I give you advice on stay hydrated, get your sleep, comb your hair, drink your milk, kind of advice, nobody's going to want to listen to that. Nobody's going to like my videos and share me on social media and everything like that. I'm not going to get any views and stuff. But if I tell people I'm eating nothing but Brussels sprouts and injecting bleach into my eyeballs, suddenly I'm, an influencer who's got, deals coming out of the wazoo. It's because extreme habits sell well. They don't work well, they just sell well. And our beliefs are based on what sells well, not actually what works well. So the marketing messages in our fitness culture when it comes to fat loss, diet, and exercise are that extreme is where it's at. But when you anecdotally and scientifically observe how do people lose body fat and keep it off, you're almost across the board going to find really mundane, dull, middle road kind of solutions. Being active on a regular basis, eating plenty of wholesome, nutrient-dense foods, not overindulging, making sure that you don't have any sort of emotional issues causing you to overeat kind of stuff. That's the long and the short of it right there, folks. The National Registry of Weight Loss Registry. It tracks people who've lost more than 30 pounds and have kept it off for more than 5 years. And the compilation of data is huge. And you'll almost never find extreme behaviors in it because extreme habits are really hard to maintain. They're really costly. They're really stressful. They're really ugly. They don't make you very attractive, as I address in Beautiful Strength. And they're because of these, they don't work very well, but they get spread like crazy. They become TikTok trends and celebrities write about them in magazines and everything like that. So it fills our attention. So we build up this idea of it's gotta be extreme in order to work. And the opposite's the case. The stuff that works best is not the extreme in most cases. Well, the celebrity did this extreme thing. Yeah, for 6 weeks, and then they stopped. And they sure as hell don't look like that because they did that, right? The extreme is usually not where we're going to find our success. And that's why my advices are much more about practicality than marketing, which is why I don't have 1 million subscribers on YouTube. It's because my 3P strategy for each meal will do a hell of a lot more for you than any diet. Every meal, you've got a good protein source, you got a good plant source, and you eat enough to satisfy your appetite. You do just that, your diet will largely just be taken care of. From there, it's just tweaks, a little more protein maybe. I don't feel so good with this pasta, but rice is good, things like that. Just personal tweaks and stuff. But for the most part, the 3P strategy will just take care of you and you're done. You check off the box and you're finished. But that's not sexy. It's not sexy to tell people, it's like, yeah, I don't care about diet. I don't need to worry about food. I don't need to be extreme in my behaviors. I don't need to worry about what I eat. I don't need to even think about trying to manage body fat levels. And it's boring. It's boring. It's like, yeah, that's the point. That's the whole point. Especially fitness habits, sport can be extreme and things like that. But especially when it comes to fat loss and fat management, it's not supposed to be sexy. It's not supposed to be extreme. It's not supposed to get you likes on social media. It's supposed to just work. And it's supposed to be boring and dull and mundane and something you don't even need to really focus a lot of time and energy for, because you've got a hell of a lot more in life that's a lot more important. And you're not going to have that time and energy for it if you're constantly worried about, body fat levels and the number of the scale or how many grams or what's in the hot dog kind of thing. So the extreme, it's sexy, it sells, which is why we believe it, but it's not what works in most cases. Dull, boring, simple, mundane stuff. That's the stuff that works best for you. So practical applications moving forward is basically, remember, it's not about your diet. It's not about your exercise. It's not about good food, bad food, and all these other sorts of things the marketing messages are trying to tell you are the thing that's solely responsible for your body fat levels. Those things are influences. The question is, how much of an influence is it for you personally, right? Take a case in point like alcohol. If you're drinking a 6-pack of beer every night, alcohol is a big influence to your calorie balance. Relatively big. If you're like me and you drink a couple beers a week, if that, you can go a whole month without drinking anything, alcohol is a small influence. It doesn't matter. It's not really going to have that much. So if I gave up alcohol, would it do anything for my waistline? No. Would it give me better abs? Probably not. So observe influential weight of these things. It's not a direct cause and effect. It's the habit. How much influence does it have over your calorie process? And that's the amount of importance that it has. And ultimately, go after simple, boring, mundane diet, and exercise habits that best help you influence and manage that calorie balance. And that's the stuff that's going to work. But that's not the stuff you're going to hear in the marketing out there, because it's not going to sell. If it doesn't sell, if it doesn't get likes, it doesn't get shares, it doesn't become a trend, no one hears about it. No one cares about it. No one takes it seriously. And that's a shame, because in a way, it's almost like our human nature is just going kind of against ourselves. Couple last ones here. Angelo is saying, Matt, is jumping rope safer for your knees compared to running? Both of them can be very safe for your knees. Of course, it depends if you have any degenerative knee issues. Depends on a lot of things. This is again the case of like, is it direct cause and effect? No, it depends on a lot of things. But most importantly, if we're looking at safety of the knees, and then, boy, I'm an expert on that one. I mean, my knees were shot to hell before I learned how to drive. I had the knees of an 80-year-old man when I was 14 because I beat the snot out of my knees purposely. Stupid, very, very stupid. I thought pain and gain were, no pain, no gain kind of thing, literally, which I'll address in the next episode. But it's not about being able to do one or the other. It's which is easier for you, my friend. For on the knees. I like jumping rope, for that sort of thing. I would say do both, but make sure your glutes are on. The more you use your hips, the more stress will come away from your knees. All right, folks, I am running out of time here, but thank you very much, everybody, for watching, listening, contributing. Much appreciated. I'll try and get the audio podcast posted to the podcast directory by the end of the weekend and stuff. Have a great weekend, everybody. Best of luck in your workouts this week. And don't forget, check in next week on Saturday for the Things You Thought You Knew Building Muscle Edition. Be fit and live free.